Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a fundamental choice facing developed nations, a choice that could reshape our entire global economy. Okay, let's dive right in. It all boils down to a simple but really profound question with massive consequences. When a country needs more workers, does it build them with technology, or does it import them with immigration? On one side, you have automation, and on the other, you have immigration. Now, what's really interesting here is how this decision is being framed. It's not about emotion, not really. It's about pure economics and, frankly, political convenience. Robots, that's a capital investment. They're predictable, they're standardized, and they cause zero political friction. Immigrants, though, that's a labor cost. They're human, they're variable, and we all know how politically volatile that can get, right? You're talking visas, housing, the whole shebang. So, why are wealthy, aging societies like Japan and a lot of Europe increasingly choosing the machine? Well, it all seems to come down to the path of least resistance. And you can really see the appeal, can't you? Robots solve a ton of complex, messy, human problems for governments and for corporations. They allow you to just sidestep those incredibly charged immigration debates entirely. They incur zero political cost, no visas, no housing, no healthcare debates. From a business perspective, they never unionize, they never get sick, they don't need overtime pay. It's a very clean solution. And this quote just nails it perfectly. Robots turn labor costs into capital costs. So what does that really mean? It means for a wealthy country, capital, money, is cheap and easy to get. But managing people, that's messy, it's complicated, it's hard. But this whole choice has these hidden, deeply personal effects too. For centuries, there's been this unspoken reason to have children. They're kind of your insurance policy for old age. They'll take care of you. But what if a robot can do that? What if a machine can provide that elder care? Suddenly, that whole historical motivation, it starts to change, maybe even vanish. Okay, so that's what's happening in the developed world. But while they're automating, what's the ripple effect on everyone else? Well, the ladder to prosperity that so many countries used to climb, it's breaking. You see, for about 100 years, there was this undisputed path to wealth. It was a pretty simple formula. Step 1, use your cheap labor to attract factories. Step 2, export all those manufactured goods to rich countries. Step 3, use that income to build your nation. Roads, schools, you name it. And boom, eventually you become a developed country. This is the exact playbook that places like South Korea use to become powerhouses. But here's the thing. That ladder is now broken. Robotics and automation are literally sawing off the first, most crucial rung. Why? Because there's no need for cheap overseas labor when a robot back home can do it even cheaper. And this whole process has a name. It's called reshoring. It's the idea of moving manufacturing from foreign countries back to the domestic country. And it's only possible because automation has suddenly made local production cost competitive again. And just look at the effect this is having. The old way for textiles, a human worker in Bangladesh. The new way, a sobot in Texas. Electronics, a factory with 100,000 workers in China becomes an automated US gigafactory with just 500 technicians. And those call centers in the Philippines, they're just evaporating, replaced by an AI voice agent in the cloud. Jobs that once lifted millions out of poverty are just gone. The impact of this is just staggering. Take a look at this number, $685 billion. That's the amount of money, called remittances, that migrant workers send home to their families every single year. For a lot of developing countries, this is their single largest source of foreign capital. It's a massive, massive flow of money, and now it's completely at risk as the need for that migrant labor just dries up. So if that old ladder is gone, what do? How do these nations survive? They're being forced into some really clever and, frankly, pretty desperate pivots. So what are these new survival strategies? Well, you've got the green ransom, leveraging critical resources. Then there's the digital service economy, exporting high-end skills. And finally, the human connection, specializing in caregiving. You can see the theme, right? It's about selling something unique that a robot, for now, can't replicate. So strategy 1 is what you could call the green ransom. Basically, countries are holding their critical minerals hostage. Look at Indonesia. They said to all the big EV makers, you want our nickel for your batteries? Fine, but you have to build your factories here. And guess what? It worked. They're forcing development on their own terms. All right, strategy 2 is the digital service economy. India is a great example here. They're pivoting from those basic call centers to high-end remote services, telemedicine, legal discovery. But this is a race, a frantic race against an ever smarter AI. And that's a really tough race to win. And then there's strategy 3, the human connection. This is a bet on the one thing robots can't easily fake: empathy. The Philippines is doubling down on this. They're training nurses and caregivers for export, betting that wealthy seniors around the world will still prefer a real human touch. So this growing divide, this automation divide, it's creating a totally new kind of global conflict. We're not talking about oil or land anymore. We're talking about the fundamental right to move. And this conflict, it isn't just happening at the border anymore. It's being exported. Wealthy nations are paying their neighboring countries to act as guards to become what are called buffer zones. They're effectively moving their border hundreds of miles away to stop migrants before they even get close. It's a whole new geopolitical game. And all of this leads to what some are calling the fortress world scenario. Think about it. In this world, your passport becomes your single most valuable asset. The borders aren't just walls anymore. They're becoming automated, digital iron curtains designed specifically for denial. So what are the battlegrounds of the 21st century going to be? Well, first, there are legal wars, fights over expanding the definition of refugee to include people fleeing climate change and economic collapse. Then you have the brain drain, where developed nations poach the best doctors and engineers from the developing world. But it all boils down to this. You have the unstoppable force of mass human desperation meeting the immovable object of automated, AI-powered border surveillance. And this brings us to our final crucial question. When capital stays home and labor can't move, what even is a border anymore? The very definition of a nation and the very idea of freedom of movement is being fundamentally rewritten right now.